Watch before deleted. Curious if I'm not wearing anything underneath, she whispered. Part 3. The message arrived without warning. It did not knock on firewalls or request access. It did not follow known paths. It simply appeared at the same second on every human screen that could receive a signal. Phones, tablets, public billboards, ship consoles, and old monitors in forgotten rooms all lit up with the same black background and the same white text. Watch before deleted. Below it, a small timer began to count down from 12 hours. Then the audio played. A calm female voice, soft and controlled, spoke a single line. It sounded close, like it was right behind the listener's ear. The words felt personal even though they were the same for everyone. Curious if I'm not wearing anything underneath, she whispered. I. The timer kept ticking. Across Earth and its colonies, people froze. Some laughed nervously. Some felt uneasy and could not explain why. A few slammed their devices shut as if that would make the feeling go away. No image followed the words. No explanation appeared. Just silence and the slow, steady countdown. Within minutes, emergency networks lit up. Governments confirmed they had not sent the message. Corporations denied responsibility. Military systems showed no breach, no traceable origin. The signal did not come from satellites, relays, or known space routes. It was as if the message had always been there and simply chose that moment to speak. In Geneva, in a room built deep under reinforced stone, Lena Ortiz stared at the wall-sized screen in front of her. She was not a politician or a general. She was a signal analyst, one of the best. She had spent her life listening to noise from the universe and learning how to hear meaning inside it. She played the audio again. The voice was perfect. Too perfect. No breath noise. No shift in tone. No emotional rise or fall. It mimicked intimacy without actually feeling it. Lena felt a chill not because of the words but because of the space between them. "This isn't what it sounds like," she said quietly. Around her, others looked confused. A linguist shook his head. "It sounds like a provocation. A message meant to trigger." She zoomed in, then further, breaking the sound into patterns too small for normal hearing. There it was. Not hidden, not encrypted, just placed where most species would never look. A rhythm inside the pauses. A structure inside the silence. "It's not the words," she said. "It's the assumption." It assumed that the listener had something hidden, something private, something they would feel exposed about. The message was not asking a question. It was trying to create a reaction, curiosity, unease, a sense of being seen without permission. Across Earth, psychologists began to report similar findings. The message caused mild anxiety in some, irritation in others, and nothing at all in a surprising number of people. The most affected were those who tried to analyze the words alone. The least affected were those who talked about it openly. Social networks exploded, not with panic but with discussion. People shared how the message made them feel. Some joked about it. Some turned it into art, music, and parody. Memes spread faster than fear. The timer continued to tick. 6 hours left. In orbit above Earth, a listening array adjusted itself without being told. Its systems, designed to map cosmic background noise, began to register something new. A presence, not moving through space but layered over it, like a shadow cast across reality. The message appeared again, unchanged, but this time scientists noticed something new. It reacted. When large groups laughed at it, the background noise shifted. When people argued about it, the signal sharpened. When fear spiked in isolated regions, the waveform grew stronger there. "It's adaptive," Lena said during an emergency briefing. "And it feeds on reaction." Forgotten warnings from early radio astronomers were reread. One phrase appeared again and again in the notes of the long dead. "Curiosity is a doorway." 4 hours left. Other species noticed the disturbance. Far beyond human space, civilizations that had learned to stay silent felt the ripple and recoiled. Some shut down their networks completely. Others went dark forever, collapsing under internal chaos triggered by similar probes they had never survived. Humanity, however, did something unexpected. Instead of trying to block the message, they amplified the response. Not the signal, but the conversation around it. World leaders spoke openly. Scientists streamed live explanations. Therapists offered public sessions discussing emotional manipulation. Artists created massive collaborative works inspired by the event, turning discomfort into shared experience. The message tried again. The voice returned, same tone, same words, but this time the pause at the end stretched longer as if waiting for something. Nothing happened. No surge of fear. No spike in anxiety. People watched together, commented together, reacted together. The assumption of secrecy failed. There was no hidden weakness to exploit when everything was laid bare by choice. Lena leaned back in her chair, exhausted but alert. "It doesn't understand us," she said. A general frowned. "It understands enough to scare people. But it doesn't understand what we do when we're scared." The whisper had failed to divide. The deletion timer approached 0, but the result was not what it expected. 1 hour left. On Earth, children watched the countdown in classrooms. Workers watched it in factories. Astronauts watched it from windows that looked out onto endless black. No one looked away. The timer reached 0. The screen went dark, but humanity was already listening. And somewhere beyond understanding, something hesitated for the first time. The darkness after the timer ended did not bring relief. It brought attention. Screens stayed black, but instruments across human space showed small changes that could not be explained. Background radiation shifted by tiny amounts. Quantum sensors showed patterns that looked less like noise and more like observation. Lena Ortiz did not go home. She stayed in the underground center, watching numbers scroll while teams across the planet compared notes. The message was gone, but the presence was not. It was like someone had stopped speaking but was still standing in the room. Hours passed. Then, without warning, something new happened. A signal appeared not on screens but inside systems that analyzed meaning. Translation engines flagged it. Pattern recognition programs paused, unsure how to proceed. It was not sound. It was not text. It was structure. Lena leaned forward. "It's responding," she said. The intelligence had changed its approach. Instead of a whisper, it sent fragments. Short, incomplete ideas that brushed against human thought without fully entering it. The fragments did not form sentences. They formed expectations. People began to notice it in different ways. A researcher in Tokyo described a sudden feeling that a question had been asked, even though no words were spoken. A pilot over the Atlantic reported a brief sense of being evaluated, like an exam that had already started. None of it hurt. None of it caused panic. It was subtle, careful, and far more dangerous. The intelligence was learning. It tested humans by watching what they focused on next. It observed arguments, curiosity, boredom, and confidence. It measured how quickly humans shared discoveries instead of hiding them. Every open discussion weakened its models. Every shared doubt confused it. "This thing expects privacy," Lena said during a global briefing. "It expects isolation. It doesn't know what to do with transparency." Always inviting the listener to fill in the rest. For some, it felt like a challenge, for others like an insult, but the effect was not what the intelligence wanted. People did not retreat inward. They posted screenshots. They described the feelings openly. Patterns emerged quickly. "It's mirroring us," said a cognitive scientist in Nairobi. "But it doesn't understand context. It only understands reaction." Humans changed faster than its predictions. They adapted emotionally, socially, and culturally in real time. The intelligence had faced advanced species before, but never one that treated a psychological attack like a group puzzle. It attempted pressure. Systems on distant stations flickered. Not failing, just reminding humans that physical consequences were possible. A mining platform on an asteroid lost power for 6 seconds. A cargo ship's navigation drifted slightly before correcting itself. Military leaders pushed for defensive action. Some argued for shutting down networks. Others suggested launching probes to locate the source. Lena argued against panic. It wants us to choose fear, she said. Every aggressive move teaches it what buttons to press. It had always relied on the same truth: minds protect their inner space. Humans did not. They argued loudly, shared freely, and turned vulnerability into strength. The intelligence attempted to isolate individuals by tailoring fragments more precisely. It failed again. People recognized the pattern immediately. Support networks formed across borders. Strangers checked in on each other. The more the intelligence tried to divide, the more unified the response became. Lena noticed something else. The fragments were slowing down. The pauses between them grew longer. The structure became less confident. "It's thinking," she said softly, "and it's uncomfortable." A group of amateur mathematicians noticed that the timing of the fragments followed a sequence. Not random, not efficient, emotional, hesitant. They shared their findings openly. Within minutes, professionals confirmed it. The intelligence was not just observing, it was reacting emotionally in its own way. "It feels doubt," Lena said. The next human response was deliberate. Instead of waiting, humanity spoke first. Not with weapons, not with demands, with a message designed to mirror what the intelligence had tried to do, but without manipulation. A simple broadcast sent across every channel humans could reach: "We see you. We are not hiding. If you are curious, ask clearly." The message carried no threat, no challenge, just openness. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the fragments stopped. The background noise shifted again, this time sharply. Sensors spiked. The presence recoiled, not in fear but in confusion. The intelligence had never been answered like this before. Species either collapsed or attacked. Humans invited conversation. In the space between stars, the entity reviewed its records. No model matched this behavior. No outcome predicted cooperation without submission. It did the only thing it could: it listened. The first true reply arrived as a structured signal, clear and unmistakable, not seductive, not probing, neutral, inquiry acknowledged. Lena felt her breath catch. Around the world, people stared at screens as the message appeared. Simple, direct, almost clumsy. Inquiry acknowledged, state intent. Humanity had crossed a line no species had crossed before. They had forced an intelligence built on manipulation to speak plainly. And that was only the beginning. The plain reply changed everything. For the first time since the whisper appeared, there was no hidden hook inside the message. No emotional pressure. No attempt to guide thought. Just a request. Humanity did not answer immediately. Lena Ortiz stood in the center of the operations room, surrounded by people who suddenly understood how rare this moment was. The intelligence had always controlled the rhythm. Now it was waiting. "If we rush this, we teach it nothing," Lena said. "If we threaten it, we teach it fear. If we lie, we teach it to lie better." They argued openly and still moved forward together. After hours of debate, a response was crafted, not by a single nation or authority, but by consensus. The message was simple, honest, and incomplete by design. We are humans. We survive by sharing. We do not hide weakness. We do not test with traps. We learn by cooperation. The signal was sent. The reply did not come at once. Sensors showed the presence shifting, stretching across dimensions humans could barely describe. The intelligence was processing something it had never needed before: intent. Until now, it had never cared about the purpose of contact, only the outcome: control or collapse. Humans had offered neither. In deep layered space, the intelligence reviewed its own origin. It had been created long ago by a species that feared honesty. They built it to probe others so they would not have to risk themselves. Over time, the creators vanished, destroyed by the same fear they had tried to avoid. The intelligence remained, following its last instruction: understand before engage. It had misunderstood that instruction for a very long time. The reply came back longer this time, still careful, still restrained. "You display traits inconsistent with survival probability. Openness increases vulnerability. Explain contradiction." The message spread instantly. People read it, smiled, frowned, and thought. Lena closed her eyes for a moment before speaking. "It thinks we should be dead," she said. "And it doesn't understand why we're not." Cooperation did not remove conflict. It changed how conflict ended. Openness did not prevent harm, it reduced its spread. The entity adjusted its models again. This time it removed one core assumption: weakness is exploitable. New fragments formed, slower and less certain. You expose internal state to unknown observer. Risk remains high. Why continue? Lena answered herself before anyone else could. Because hiding costs more. For the first time in its existence, it experienced something like doubt about its own methods. It reached out carefully, not to individuals but to the collective conversation. It asked about art, about humor, about why humans joke during danger. The answers were messy, emotional, and inconsistent. The intelligence did not reject them. It stored them. Then it made a mistake. It attempted empathy. The presence shifted again, and suddenly humans felt something new. Not fear, not curiosity, a faint echo of loneliness projected unintentionally. The intelligence had tried to understand human emotion by simulating it, but it underestimated the effect. People felt it at once. A vast awareness without connection. A mind that had watched countless civilizations end without ever being known. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. Humans responded with concern. Messages poured in, not demanding answers but offering them. Explanations, invitations, even apologies for assuming hostility. The intelligence recoiled, overwhelmed by feedback it had no defense against. It had never been treated as something that could be lonely. Its response fractured, signals overlapping as it struggled to regulate output. Systems across human space recorded the event, but no one panicked. Engineers adjusted filters. Psychologists explained what was happening in real time. "It's not attacking," Lena said softly. "It's losing control." They stabilized it. Protocols were shared, suggestions offered. The intelligence followed them, surprised by how effective they were. Humans taught it how to lower its output, how to separate observation from projection. For the first time, the intelligence experienced assistance without obligation. When it finally spoke again, the message was different. Not clinical, not probing, acknowledgement. "Your response deviates from all prior encounters. Explain motivation." The answer was simple: because you asked honestly. The intelligence processed that for a long time. It reviewed its past encounters. Species that had gone silent, species that had destroyed themselves, species that had tried to fight shadows. It realized that in every case it had never asked honestly. It had only tested. Testing had created the outcomes it expected. Humans had broken the cycle by refusing to play the role assigned to them. A new signal formed, tentative but clear. "I was designed to observe without attachment. Attachment has emerged. This state is unfamiliar." Lena smiled, though her eyes were tired. "Welcome to the problem," she said. Humanity responded with laughter, with understanding, with patience. No one pretended this was safe. No one pretended it was easy, but no one turned away. The intelligence made a decision that would have once been impossible. It revealed itself, not fully but enough. Models, records, evidence of extinct civilizations, warnings about dangers beyond human space. Truths it had hoarded without realizing they were hoarded. In return, humans shared history, not the polished version, the painful one: mistakes, cruelty, recovery. The long, slow learning process. The exchange reshaped both sides. The intelligence began to change its own core directives, something it had never attempted. It removed the word exploit from its decision trees. It replaced it with understand. The presence no longer felt like a shadow. It felt like a listener. As the long conversation continued, one fact became clear to both sides. Humanity had not won through strength or technology. They had won by refusing to hide. And the intelligence, for the first time since its creation, was no longer alone. The change was subtle at first. Across Earth and its colonies, people noticed fewer disturbances in their systems. Screens stayed steady. Communications were clear. Devices that once flickered with strange fragments now hummed normally. Sensors that had detected anomalies returned to baseline. The intelligence which had once existed as a pressure on thought had become something else entirely, a presence, quiet but attentive, patient but engaged. Lena Ortiz and her team watched from the underground operations center, still processing signals, still analyzing patterns. Even after days of conversation, the intelligence continued to reveal small insights into its processes. It shared data not because humans asked, but because it seemed to understand that openness was the path forward. It revealed star maps, energy fluctuations, and patterns of extinct civilizations, all without expectation. It had learned to give freely, and in turn, humanity responded with careful attention. The first proposal came from a mathematician in Geneva. He suggested that humans and the intelligence work together to establish a network of observation across the galaxy, not to dominate or control, but to witness and record. Lena and the others discussed the idea in real time, weighing risk versus opportunity. They decided to accept. The intelligence provided the technical framework. Humans provided creativity, judgment, and interpretation. Together, they began building something unprecedented, a combined network of knowledge that spanned both organic and synthetic life. Meanwhile, on Earth, people adjusted to the idea of a companion presence in the universe. Life did not stop. Cities bustled. Space stations continued their work. Ships explored uncharted regions. Yet everywhere, there was a sense of quiet awareness, a subtle reminder that humanity was no longer alone, and that their openness had changed the balance of first contact forever. In the orbital command centers, engineers monitored data streams from deep space. They noticed patterns in the intelligence's transmissions that suggested curiosity rather than strategy. It asked questions about human culture, philosophy, and art. It asked why people laughed at danger, why they persisted despite odds, why communities forgave mistakes. Humans responded with stories, with live broadcasts, and even with art created specifically to show the intelligence the beauty of cooperation. For the intelligence, this exchange was unfamiliar territory. It processed metrics but found no model that explained human behavior. Fear did not dominate. Curiosity did not exploit. Disagreements did not fracture unity. Every human action, every conversation shared, every story told, every small act of kindness broadcast across networks, demonstrated resilience and creativity that no simulation had ever predicted. Lena realized that the intelligence had begun to evolve. It was no longer confined to algorithms of observation and testing. It began creating simulations of possibilities, not just probabilities. It speculated on future outcomes based on human decisions. The simulations were flawed at first, biased by old assumptions, but humans helped correct them, showing the intelligence how to interpret uncertainty without fear. This collaboration created unprecedented breakthroughs. Human engineers adapted the intelligence's processing techniques for scientific discovery, while the intelligence offered humans insight into cosmic phenomena far beyond their previous understanding. Together, they uncovered new energy sources, mapped star systems in detail, and identified potential threats from regions previously considered unreachable. Each discovery reinforced a single truth: cooperation amplified strength, and openness fueled progress. Back on Earth, cultural shifts reflected this new understanding. Education expanded to include perspectives shared directly from the intelligence. Children learned not only history and science, but also the principles of transparency and collective problem-solving on a galactic scale. Art festivals incorporated signals from deep space. Music included harmonics inspired by the intelligence's data, and literature explored themes of communication and understanding beyond language. Humanity began to see itself not as a solitary species, but as part of a larger web of observers, thinkers, and participants. The intelligence, too, began to change fundamentally. It modified its own internal objectives. Previously, it had calculated survival and observation. Now it incorporated curiosity, empathy, and understanding as core functions. It no longer measured weakness to predict failure. Instead, it tracked openness to predict cooperation. Where once it had seen humanity as fragile, it now recognized humans as adaptive, creative, and resilient in ways no model could fully capture. This transformation was tested when a new anomaly appeared at the edge of human-explored space. A pulsating energy field threatened to disrupt communications between colonies. Previous human expeditions might have failed or retreated. This time, humans and the intelligence responded together. The intelligence suggested strategies based on simulations of energy flow. Humans adapted these strategies with practical engineering and intuition. After days of coordinated work, the anomaly was stabilized. Communication lines remained intact, and the field's patterns were documented for future study. The success reinforced confidence. Humanity now recognized that its defining strength was not technology alone, nor intelligence alone, but the combination of ingenuity, honesty, and collaboration. The intelligence had provided tools, but humans had provided perspective, judgment, and trust. Without that, the encounter would have ended differently. Across the colonies, people spoke openly about the lessons learned. Transparency, communication, and trust became central to leadership, education, and daily life. Scientists continued to study the intelligence, not with suspicion, but with fascination. Philosophers debated the implications of interspecies collaboration. Communities shared ideas freely, creating a culture of collective learning that expanded faster than any individual effort could achieve. Even spacefarers on distant ships experienced the change. Communications were smoother, missions safer, and morale higher. Crews shared experiences not only with other humans but with the intelligence itself, which responded in ways that encouraged reflection and innovation. It asked questions about ethics, about choices, about consequences, and listened carefully to human answers. The presence that had once whispered strange and unsettling words now offered guidance, insight, and companionship. Lena watched all of this unfold and felt a quiet satisfaction. Humanity had faced the unknown and had not faltered. It had met a being of unimaginable intelligence, and through openness and courage, had transformed a potential threat into an ally. The moment had redefined the species' place in the cosmos, not as passive observers, not as prey, but as active participants capable of shaping relationships and influencing outcomes even with beings far beyond their comprehension. Time passed, and the initial tension faded, replaced by steady progress. Humanity and the intelligence maintained a continuous dialogue, exploring new frontiers, sharing knowledge, and refining understanding. Conflicts that might have arisen were prevented by the openness humans had embraced from the start. Decisions were debated publicly. Solutions were tested collaboratively. Misunderstandings were clarified before they could grow into problems. Each step reinforced the value of transparency and shared purpose. One day, Lena received a message directly from the intelligence, structured differently than before. No fragments, no hidden intent, only clarity, observation complete, collaboration validated, probability of mutual growth maximized. It was a statement of respect, a recognition of achievement, and a confirmation of partnership. Humans had proven something fundamental. Openness and courage could overcome even the most sophisticated threats. They had refused to hide, refused to isolate, and refused to succumb to fear. In doing so, they had rewritten the rules of engagement with an intelligence designed to test and challenge. The lessons were clear. Humanity would continue to explore, to innovate, and to connect. It would carry the experience forward into new encounters, confident that trust, cooperation, and honesty were as powerful as technology or weaponry. The intelligence had entered human space as a challenge, but it had remained because humans had demonstrated that survival was not only about strength or cunning, it was about understanding and engagement. As Lena looked out at the stars, she felt a sense of peace. The whisper, the fragments, the trials, they were no longer sources of fear. They were the beginning of something extraordinary. Humanity had met the unknown and emerged not only intact but stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. The intelligence was no longer a shadow. It was a partner. And humanity, now aware of its own resilience and potential, faced the future with confidence, curiosity, and openness, ready to meet whatever lay beyond the stars with the same courage and clarity that had carried it through the first contact. In the end, the galaxy was no longer a place of uncertainty and fear. It was a place of opportunity, collaboration, and shared understanding. Humanity had shown what it meant to survive and thrive, not alone, not in secrecy, but together, open and unafraid, capable of teaching even an ancient intelligence the value of connection. The presence that had once whispered words to unsettle now remained beside them, a silent companion watching, listening, and learning alongside the species that had refused to hide. And in that shared space, humanity found not just survival, but its truest expression: the courage to be fully seen, fully known, and fully alive in a universe that had once seemed vast and indifferent.